So I've been, just in this whole process of reading these newspapers that I referred to earlier and watching the news channels that constantly cover this election this makes the Super Bowl look small. It's unbelievable. There's constant coverage, which I think is great for the most part. Through this process, I have seen, and this is just speaking from fact, I have seen your opponents say that the equivalent, or voting for you is the equivalent of voting for a third George Bush administration. This is what I have read. The second thing I'll say, again, a fact, that for the third year in a row, the current administration has shrunk the budget at the National Cancer Institute. This is a fact. If you are elected president, will we continue to see that trend? Or will we reverse that trend and actually increase funding at the National Cancer Institute?
We will reverse that trend. But I also think we have got to establish, and I know you agree with this, because I think that you don't enjoy traveling to Washington all the time and having meetings with members of Congress. Some of them are very interesting people, but I'm sure that you probably have something else you'd like to do. I think that we ought to all support a better method of apportioning the funds by using the best minds in America of every kind, whether it be scientific or healthcare providers or whatever experts it is, so that we can make sure that whatever money it is going in the most effective way and would lead us on the path to success in the struggle against various forms of cancer or other diseases. There's unfortunately a competition, as you know, between the important advocates and the addressing adequately so many of the challenges that America faces in the area of health and other areas. So I'd like to see some well, they do this to some degree. Don't get me wrong, you know that there's, well, you're on the council, President's Council on Cancer, but I'd like to see more of us being given guidance by the community that you've been so heavily involved in, so that we can better apportion whatever funds there are in the most effective fashion.
Yep.
I'd like to see that coupled with it.
And I will tell you that we hear that a lot. Whenever we spend time on the Hill, we hear from our leaders, either the president or the head of Health and Human Services, head of the NIH, NCI, all the Senate, everybody in Congress.
And don't sometimes you feel, Lance, like you are competing with people who also have very legitimate causes?
Correct, and that's what they say. I mean, if you sit down, for example, you'll sit down with a senator and they say, listen, an hour ago it was, I heard from the heart disease group, and next hour is Parkinson's, the hour after that is heart disease, is obesity, and it's diabetes, and then within your own subset, your own disease. Yesterday I had the women in here from they will say the women, the breast cancer survivors in here, and tomorrow I've got the old guys coming in here that survived prostate cancer, and now you young guys are in here with us. And it's true, we really need, and I think that's the beauty of this event, and it's been our approach all along, is that we think we need a united approach here. This is one disease, absolutely. And I have no idea who's going to be the president. But if I were the president, which I will not be, thank goodness, I want to make sure I heard what you said.
You could probably run.
Anybody can run. Anybody can run. We'll start with governor first, and then I'm just kidding. Just kidding. But I want to make sure I heard you right. You would decrease that trend. I mean, I'm sorry, you would reverse that trend. Okay, thank you.
Can you tell us by how much, though? Your Democratic candidates at your forum in the fall were saying they double and they would triple the NCI and NIH budget.
Well,
double, triple, those are big numbers.
Those are very nice numbers, and I could throw out, how about quadruple or quintuple? How would that sound?
Oh, hold on one second.
Oops.
Quintuple or sextuple or whatever it is that you want to say. The point is, one, we got to pay for it, and two, we have to apportion it correctly. So it's easy. particularly in all candor, for liberals to go out and say, I'll give you all this. Do you know the debt we've laid on you, future generations of Americans? Do you know that Medicare, which is a vital safety net, is 40-some trillion dollars in debt, unfunded liability? So when you go out and you say, I'm going to double or triple or quadruple the amount of money, I'd like to not lay the debt for it on the next generation of Americans who are not going to receive the same Social Security benefits, who are not going to receive Medicare. And so I think we need some fiscal responsibility in Congress also. So I'm willing to, but the first thing I want to do is cut out the pork barrel projects. Okay, you keep mentioning my opponent or my opponents. I have never asked for a single pork barrel project from my state, not a one, never. My opponents asked for $932 million in pork barrel projects, literally $1 million for every working day that he's been in the United States Senate. So if you want to talk about spending money, I know how to spend money, everybody does. But I promise you, my friends, I'm not going to lay that debt on the next generation of Americans. We're going to pay for it.
So you're not going to give us any hard numbers then as president?
I'd be glad to give you some hard numbers about the 9,000 pork barrel projects and $18 billion in pork barrel projects that we've accounted for, that we could take and immediately transfer, that Senator Obama continues to vote for and I continue to vote against. So I'd be glad to give you some numbers, but I'd also like to give you a couple other numbers. How about $6 trillion, I believe it is, unfunded debt is Social Security. These young people here, they're going to have to pay that bill. Let me give you another number, 40-some trillion dollars in unfunded liability for Medicare. In other words, sometime I'd like for you to meet a guy named David Walker, who used to be the head of the Government Accountability Office, and he is now works for the Concord Coalition. And he'll come and give you a presentation about this debt that we're laying on the next generation of Americans. I don't think that's fair, Paula. And I don't think it's particularly fair to say, I'll spend all this much more money without paying for it and without having it taken care of in one way or the other. So we will increase the funding, my friends, but we will do it because I'll make these pork barreling guys famous and you'll know their names. And we won't spend any more. We won't spend. And my friends, we won't spend $3 million to study the DNA of bears in Montana. You know, I don't know if that was a paternity issue or a criminal issue, okay? We won't spend $233 million for a bridge in Alaska to an island with 50 people on it. My friends, we won't do those things, and we'll take that money and we'll make sure it goes to the right place, and this is one of the right places.